Good morning. We want to continue our study in the daily word. And we come here in Matthew, we begin chapter 10. And here in chapter 10, we're going to be introduced really to the first disciples that become the 12 apostles. And so we pick it up here in chapter 10, and notice he's going to give us the list. Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out, to heal every kind of disease and every kind of sickness. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these. First, there was Simon, who was also called Peter. And then there's Andrew, who was his brother. And then James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John. And then Philip and Bartholomew, who most likely were friends. Thomas and Matthew, remember the tax collector. James, the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus. Thaddeus most likely, as the word means, the last one to feed upon the breast of his mother. Most likely he was the baby of the family. And then there's Simon the Zealot. He was part of this radical group trying to kill Romans and start a revolution. And then, of course, Judas Iscariot, who would be the one who would betray Jesus Christ. It says, these 12 Jesus sent out after instructing them, do not go in the way of the Gentiles and do not enter any city of the Samaritans, but rather go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. Freely you receive, freely give. Do not acquire gold or silver or copper for your money belts, or a bag for your journey, or even 2 coats or sandals or a staff, for the worker is worthy of his support. And whatever city or village you enter, inquire who is worthy in it, and stay at his house until you leave that city. As you enter the house, give it your greeting, and if the house is worthy, give it your blessing of peace. But if it is not worthy, take back your blessing of peace. That is, they don't want you to stay. He says, whoever does not receive you nor heed your words as you go out of the house or that city, shake the dust off your feet. Truly, I say to you, it will be more tolerable in the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. Well, what's going on here? Well, what Matthew does here is he introduces us to the first disciples who would become the apostles, the very foundation Jesus would use to build his church, starting with Peter. And here Matthew deals with the task of what they're going to be called to do as disciples, the reaction that's going to happen against them, and then the cost it's going to be to them. See, these were the first missionaries. And Mark's account tells us that Jesus sent them out by twos. And notice that the focus of their task is to the Jews. He warns them, do not go to the Samaritans or to the Gentiles. Remember, the Samaritans were like the half-breeds. They were Jews way back in the time of King David and the book of 1st, 2nd Kings and Chronicles. But what happened is out of God's judgment, the Syrians came and removed them from the land. These were the 10 tribes of Israel, 10 of the 12. And they basically intermarried with Gentiles, or Gentiles were brought into that land of Samaria and then had children. So they were half-breeds, and so they were hated by the Jews. So don't go to Samaritans, and then don't go to the Gentiles. Jews referred to Gentiles as dogs. So the focus initially of the gospel was to go to the Jews. Now, this does not mean that God did not love Samaritans and Gentiles, because remember, before Jesus ascends to heaven in Acts chapter 1, verse 8, he says, you're going to be my witnesses. And my witnesses both in Jerusalem, but also Judea, Samaria, and the othermost parts of the world. So it was a priority. It would first go to the Jews who had received the promises of the Old Testament. And then upon their rejection as a whole, then it would go ahead and go to, well, like you said before, those from the east and the west, the half-breed Samaritans, and on to the Gentiles. Notice the apostles are given the same power to give the same evidence, the forensic evidence, that the gospel they preached, the provision of forgiveness through Jesus Christ, was real. And so he says, but there's not going to be any self-benefit to you. So there would not be confusion that these apostles were in this for the money, for personal benefit. He says, you're going to have to trust God for your own needs. There's going to be no self-benefit to confuse what this was all about. So why do you have this resistance from some in these cities? Well, it comes down to this. There's always going to be a remnant who will believe the truth. And Jesus will explain it a little bit more later. But right here, what is it that people fear? Well, they fear the loss of power. Power to control their own lives, and for many, the power to control the lives of others. And for this reason, this is what arrogance, self-divinity is all about. And this is why people reject the gospel, even as far as back when it was first offered through Jesus Christ. Well, we'll go ahead and pick this up again tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. And Lord willing, we'll meet you tomorrow with the last half of Matthew chapter 10, verses 24 to 42. Have a great day.